My phone buzzed with a weather alert I never got to read, because that was the exact moment I saw the two figures fall against the wall of the subway entrance and not get back up. Nobody else stopped. Hundreds of people moved around them, the way water moves around two stones, eyes down, headphones in, already late for something. I almost did the same thing. I had a meeting in 11 minutes, but something about the way they fell was wrong. It was too smooth, too controlled, like their legs had simply stopped listening to them at the exact same second. I crouched down. Two figures, wrapped in long gray coats that seemed too heavy for the warm evening, hoods pulled low. One of them, the smaller one, turned her face toward me, and I forgot about my meeting completely. Her skin had a faint silver shine under the streetlight. Her eyes were too large, and they held on mine with a kind of desperate focus that no stranger has ever given me before. "Please," she said, her voice carrying a strange double echo, as if two voices were speaking the same word at once. "Do not call anyone. Do not point. Please, just help us stand." I should have run. Every instinct built by a lifetime of safety warnings told me to back away and call for help. Instead, I slid my arm under her shoulder, feeling something firmer than bone but lighter than metal, and lifted. "What happened to you?" I whispered. "They are close," the other one said, the taller one, his hood slipping just enough to show the same silver-touched skin. "We have maybe 6 minutes before the scanners find our heat signal again." I did not understand the word scanners yet. I would understand it very soon, and it would change the rest of my night completely. "My name is Claire," I said, because it felt strange to help two strangers without saying anything at all. "There's an alley behind that bakery. Can you walk if I support you?" The smaller one nodded and pushed herself upright using my shoulder as a support. Up close I could see now that what I thought was fabric on their coats moved slightly on its own, adjusting like a second skin. We had gone maybe 20 steps into the alley when a black van turned onto the street behind us, moving slow, its headlights sweeping the sidewalk like something searching. "Get down," the taller one said, pulling both of us behind a stack of delivery crates. His hand trembled against my arm, not from weakness but from something closer to fear. I watched through a gap in the crates as the van rolled past, its side windows tinted so dark they looked like polished stone. It did not stop, but it slowed enough that my heart climbed straight into my throat. "Who are they?" I asked, once the engine noise faded. "People who study us," the smaller one answered. Her name, she told me a moment later, was Wren, and her brother was called Bram. Not to help, to take apart. We landed 9 days ago, and every day since, they have been getting closer. "Landed," I repeated. "You mean you're not from here?" Bram looked at me with an expression that somehow managed to be both apologetic and completely serious. "We are not from your world, Claire. We did not choose to come here. Our transport failed above the ocean, and the currents brought us to your shore. We have been trying to reach anyone who might listen before the ones hunting us do." I want to tell you that I laughed, that I thought it was some elaborate trick, but the silver light under their skin, and the fear shaking through both of their hands, told a truth that no performance could fake. "Okay," I said, and my voice came out steadier than I expected. "Then we need to move before that van circles back." We came out of the alley on the far side, onto a narrower street lined with closed shops. My mind raced through every option I had. Calling the police felt dangerous, since I had no idea who was actually driving that van, or who they answered to. Calling my brother felt useless, since he would think I had lost my mind. Then I remembered Professor Dalton. 2 years earlier, I had taken a night class taught by an old quiet man named Edwin Dalton, who spent half of every lecture talking about the day humanity would finally meet someone from beyond our sky. Everyone in that class had laughed behind his back. I never had. Something about his certainty had always felt less like fantasy, and more like preparation. "I know someone who might help," I said, already walking faster. "But his house is across the river. That's almost 30 minutes on foot." "We do not have 30 minutes, Wren said, glancing over her shoulder. As if to prove her right, the black van reappeared at the end of the street, its engine now moving with clear purpose, no longer slow and searching but fast and certain. "Run," Bram said, and for the first time that night, I did exactly what a stranger told me to do, without questioning it at all. We cut through a parking garage, our footsteps echoing off concrete walls, then down a service stairwell that smelled of oil and dust. Behind us, I heard a car door slam, and heavy boots hit pavement. My lungs burned, but Wren and Bram, despite falling only minutes earlier, now moved with a speed that made it hard for me to keep up, rather than the other way around. "This way," I gasped, pulling them toward the footbridge that crossed the river near the old grain mill. Once we were halfway across, with dark water rushing beneath us and the city lights glittering on both sides, I finally allowed myself to look back. Two men in dark jackets stood at the entrance to the bridge, not running, simply watching, the way a predator watches when it knows its prey cannot escape by any hidden path. My stomach dropped. "They know this bridge only has two ends," Bram said quietly. "Then we don't need to reach the other end," I said, an idea forming faster than I could fully examine it. "We need to disappear before we get there." Halfway across, a maintenance door was set into the side railing, marked with faded paint and a rusted lock that had clearly not worked in years. I threw my shoulder against it, and it groaned open onto a narrow service platform hanging just above the water, hidden from the main walkway by a curve in the bridge structure. We slipped inside seconds before the two men reached the spot where we had been standing. Through a gap in the metal, I watched their shadows pass directly overhead, unhurried, confident, completely unaware that three people were holding their breath just below their feet. "They will search the far end and find nothing," Ren whispered once the footsteps faded. "Then they will come back." "Which gives us maybe 10 minutes, I said. "Enough time to reach Edwin Street if we take the lower path along the water." Bram studied me with something that looked like disbelief mixed with gratitude. "You are risking a great deal for two strangers, Claire." I thought about that question honestly, because it deserved an honest answer. "Back at the subway, 100 people walked past you and decided you weren't their problem. I don't know why I was the one person who stopped. Maybe because you looked exactly as scared as I would be, lost somewhere I didn't understand, hoping someone, anyone, would just see me." Ren's large eyes shone, and for a moment I thought she might cry, though I still did not know if their bodies could produce tears at all. We reached Edwin's narrow house just as the streetlights flickered on fully, and I knocked so hard my knuckles ached. When the door opened, the old professor looked at me first with surprise, then at the two hooded figures behind me, and his entire face changed from confusion into something I can only describe as quiet, overwhelming joy. "Inside. Quickly," he said. No questions asked, no hesitation at all, as though he had been waiting his whole life for this exact knock on his door. Once the door was locked behind us, Edwin moved with surprising energy for a man his age, pulling curtains shut, checking a small device that beeped quietly near his window. Something he explained later was built to detect unusual radio signals nearby. "They tracked a heat signature 2 streets over 10 minutes ago," he said, watching the small screen. "It seems your friends outran them." "For now," Bram said, lowering his hood fully for the first time since we had met. Without the shadow covering his face, I could see the fine silver patterns across his cheeks, delicate as frost on a window. Edwin knelt in front of them the way someone kneels before something sacred. "My name is Edwin Dalton. I have spent 40 years hoping to prove that we are not alone. I will not let anyone hurt you in my home." Over the next hour, sitting in Edwin's cluttered living room filled with star charts and old radio equipment, Ren and Bram told us everything. Their world, called Visara, had sent a small exploration vessel toward Earth after detecting radio signals decades old. Their pilot had died during a rough entry into the atmosphere, and the two of them had survived only by chance, landing far from any planned location, hunted ever since by a private group that had detected their crash before any government agency could. "They want to sell what they learned from us," Ren explained. "Our biology, our technology, sold quietly to whoever offers the most, before the world even learns we exist." Edwin's jaw tightened. "Then we go public before they can silence you. Tomorrow morning I contact 3 journalists I trust completely, along with a friend inside the science ministry who has waited as long as I have for proof like this." "And tonight?" I asked, glancing nervously toward the curtains. "Tonight," Edwin said, "we make sure no black van finds this address." He led us down through a hidden panel in his kitchen floor into a basement lined with thick concrete, built decades earlier, he explained, back when his own father feared different kinds of danger entirely. It was cold and quiet and safer than anywhere we had been all evening. Sitting on old crates in that dim basement, Ren looked at me with an expression that no longer held fear, only something warmer. "On our world," she said, "when someone risks everything to protect a stranger, we do not simply thank them. We call them family, permanently, without needing any other explanation." I did not know how to answer that, so I simply reached over and held her hand, feeling the strange but gentle texture of her skin, silver light pulsing softly beneath my fingers, like a heartbeat made of starlight. We stayed hidden through the night, listening to Edwin's radio equipment click and murmur, tracking the search vehicles moving farther and farther from his quiet street as the hours passed. By morning, 3 journalists sat in his living room upstairs, recording every word Ren and Bram were finally ready to share with the world. Within days, everything changed. Governments that had denied any knowledge of extraterrestrial contact suddenly found themselves answering urgent questions. The private group that had hunted Ren and Bram through half the city vanished from public record almost overnight. Its operations quietly shut down once too many cameras turned in its direction. Ren and Bram were given protection, a proper embassy, and slowly, carefully, a place among us that no longer required hiding in alleys or basements. I still visit them sometimes, at the small building near the river that now flies both an Earth flag and a Viserion one beside it. Ren always makes tea the human way now, though she insists it tastes better with a pinch of something silver and sweet from her own world stirred in at the end. People ask me sometimes why I stopped that evening when 100 others walked past without a second glance. I still do not have a perfect answer. All I know is that somewhere between fear and safety, there is a single moment where a person decides whether a stranger's crisis becomes their own concern or simply background noise to walk past. I am glad, every single day since, that I chose to stop.